So the major thing with today's topic, when you think about new member recruitment, you're thinking about membership and how you can increase your membership. So why does new member recruitment matter? It matters because it falls within this cycle that we call the chapter development cycle. And everything in this cycle impacts how your chapter grows and develops successfully. So basically, there's four main pillars. There's membership, there's leadership, there's activities, and there's image. So if we look at starting at membership, if you have great membership, you'll have access to great leaders who in turn will help you collaborate and create better activities that you could provide to your members. And then that boosts your image as a chapter on campus, which in turn will give you more membership. So this is a big vicious cycle of good. And it's also a great way for you to pinpoint if you're having a problem with one particular area, then it lets you go back and find a way to solve that. For example, if you do not have a ton of membership, then you can go back in the circle and look at image and say, well, if I want more members, I need to increase my image and better my image on campus. So you can figure out ways to do that to then boost the next thing in the cycle. This also is a good thing for when you want to look backwards on stuff. So if you're saying, hey, we don't really have that many great leaders. What is the problem for that? Then you go back in the circle, you'll see, okay, well, we need more membership so that we have access to more great leaders, so on and so forth. So this is a great resource if you're looking for a way to pinpoint what problems you might have and how to create great solutions to fix those. So that brings us to today's topic. So the focus here will be the membership, so the red box. But with membership, you have to know who you're specifically targeting. So the goal of today's discussion is to show you how to do new member recruitment properly. And the first thing you're going to need is your eligibility list to help you know who to target as the potential group for your new members. So you'll get an eligibility list probably from your school. And the way that we include members in Tau Beta Pi is we get the top 1/8 of juniors, the top 1/5 of seniors in any eligible engineering fields. And every chapter can vary a little bit differently in regards to the engineering fields, which ones count, which ones don't. Then we also accept graduate students, so the top 1/5 of graduate students who are halfway through their current degree.
So what I'd really recommend that you do is usually, depending on which engineering departments are eligible for you, you may or may not have specific engineering department orientations for each major. So for example, UCSC has a CSC one and ECE one and etc. So if you can talk to those department organizers for that event and get TBP to kind of be present at that event, that's a really good way of just letting freshmen know that, hey, this is a real organization. We really are not a scam or a fraud or any of those other things. So it kind of gets that name recognition early on, so that later on they'll recognize our name.
So when possible, we tried to have our college's communications director, as well as student affairs and other student organizations like Dean's Activity Board, Dean's Advisory Board, and other engineer clubs kind of spread the word to oncoming freshmen and new students what we're all about to try to gauge interest and kind of show who we are. The first time I heard about Tau Beta Pi was from my lab TA, who was president at the time. And by him spreading awareness to us, I was able to transition from completely unaware of what Tau Beta Pi is to president of 2 years. So basically making an effort to showcase what your chapter is about is definitely a must, in my opinion.
And in addition to just major orientations, also getting in at just those, if you are able to kind of give a short spiel at some of those general intro classes for different engineering majors, that can be helpful as well. And of course, if your school allows it, joining in at your school's extracurricular bazaar, just to raise awareness, as well as trying to get in maybe at least one kind of image raising event, even just giving out free food with a table with the ability for some students to stop by and ask questions, or doing an activity that provides a little bit more use, I guess, such as setting up like a peer mentor program for engineering students early on in the fall when they're still getting started in their majors.
When I was walking into my engineering building when I was back in undergrad, I would see like poster of like Tau Beta Pi, like with the logo of the band saying like engineering excellent. Every time I walked by that hallway, I would see that, and it was just, I would just always ask like, whoa, what is this about? And when I see them at events, that's when I was like, oh, cool, that's Tau Beta Pi. So that's
is I think it's good to provide like a service to the College of Engineering if you can. For example, Arizona Alpha, we did undergrad tutoring. We would offer tutoring like twice a week for undergrads. So then you can advertise, especially if you go to these freshman events, then you can advertise something for them that they can use right away. Because I know it's weird to try to go to these events and say, for Tau Beta Pi Engineering Honor Society, you have to be a junior or senior to join. See you in 2 years, you know. So giving them something that they can use right away is good, because then it gets them to know you early and also gives them a service. Or if you wanted to do like a yearly event, I know I've heard of chapters doing like a career fair, like hosting a whole career fair, which is a lot. But if you wanted to do an annual event, then you can also get your name out there.
I guess cohort of eligible students was generally relatively small. So what our chapter was able to do was actually send out the eligibility letters by hand delivering them in wax sealed envelopes to under the doors of each of the student dorms. And I remember getting that envelope in in junior year and just feeling like it was this special mysterious group that I was being invited to, and that felt really exciting. So even though that may not be as easy to do, I guess, for much larger schools, I think keeping that kind of mystery and excitement in the eligibility process can be a really fun way to bring in more students.
That is so incredibly cool. Unfortunately, my school's a little bit bigger, so since we're a little bit more at scale, we aren't able to do something more individual for our members. So instead, what we do is we'll send out an email to them directly from our TVP Gmail account, but also have the Dean of Engineering send out a letter just certifying that Tau Beta Pi is a real engineering society, just really honing in that TVP is something they should at least check out.
Our chapter has either the Dean of Engineering or the College of Engineering contact eligible candidates to ensure that this is a universally recognized achievement from both the Dean as well as the university. We typically get the list from registrar, since many of our students are commuters and live off campus, so we can't do a wax seal, but that is really cool. We, as well as the Dean, typically stress the achievement, such as the eligibility requirements of being the top 8th or top 5th, whichever, as well as a bit of our history to show that we're much more than the pay to enter societies you get in your email. Something just to separate us a little bit.
So we may not have hand delivered our invitations, but we did at Arizona Alpha send out paper invitations in the mail. And what we found is valuable about that is that mostly the addresses that students have on file is actually their parents. So then it gets to their parents' house, and then their parents are like, hey, this sounds super cool, you should join. So even if they were on the fence before, they'll do it just, to make their parents happy. And hopefully that's enough to get them to the information session. And then beyond that, you can actually convince them to join. In addition to the email, we'd send out paper invitations and email.
So we also did the email, but we also did the hand deliver, not with the wax though. But we're a smaller chapter, so we could do that, about like 40 people initiating. But we pretty much go to like a junior class or senior class, and then ask the professor at the beginning of the class if we could like recognize a few students that are eligible and just read them off the list, and then have them come up and like get the letter. I don't know how that would be applicable during this time, during COVID, but that's pretty cool.
And one thing that we do is we also do phone calls. So we actually get phone numbers as part of our eligibility list from the school. And so we will call people individually saying, hey, you're eligible, come join, but also we'll invite them to a barbecue that we host every semester. And so it gets people to come to the barbecue, and then we get to talk them into joining. But also the phone calls are for home phones. So like Annie was saying, typically you'll get like a parent. I've gotten a grandmother before. So then you just, it's lots of fun. You get to talk them up, and it's a great way to get your name out there.
So first of all, getting the chance to really get to know other students across different engineering majors, because it can often be that we know the students in our own majors very well, but it's really awesome to also get to know other engineers who are doing different and exciting things at the same college. Highlighting that it is a national organization and you can make connections both now and later on in your career across Tau Beta Pi that can be really interesting and really helpful later on. And then highlighting kind of a few of the specific programs that we do. Like our school, we had some kind of select dinners with speakers, as well as other kind of educational programs, and just kind of the value that those would bring.
Yeah, so for me, whenever I'm in the information sessions, I want people to know that it's kind of the achievement and the effort that makes joining so worthwhile. Just to let others know that hard work and passion does pay off in the end. For many, it's kind of about wanting to show that they belong or that their hard work doesn't go unnoticed. I try to stress the importance of connections and references that go along with Tau Beta Pi. Some of my closest friends are from Tau Beta Pi, and it was primarily the main reason I got my foot in the door at my current company. So it was a pretty good experience. But yeah, in essence, it's just making clear how prestigious the organization is.
I think just adding on to those, Elizabeth brought up a great point at kind of showcasing some of the events your chapter might run. So for example, my chapter runs an annual career fair and an annual alumni networking event where we invite back DUP alumni from our chapter just to kind of give career advice and mentorship and things like that. I also give personal anecdotes, like I met most of my closest friends through Tau Beta Pi. A lot of them have already graduated and we stay in contact all these years later. So yeah, I definitely say that networking and community is a big factor. Also getting referrals for companies from that network.
I think if you're talking to someone one-on-one, then you can have the chance to really ask what they're looking for from Tau Beta Pi, because I think what people want from Tau Beta Pi and what they get out of it really varies. Like for me, it was about finding friends in other majors, and like other panelists said, I still keep in touch with them, etc. But some other people just really like putting it on their resume, or they just like the fact that they accomplished something and now they get honored for it. So I think trying to tailor that, if it's a one-on-one or a small group, trying to tailor that to what they're looking for could be useful. And then another anecdote is that if anyone follows the National Tau Beta Pi Instagram, they did a campaign recently that was "I'm a Tau Bait because," and their whole idea is kind of trying to answer this question: what's the value of Tau Beta Pi? So I'd encourage everyone to take a look at that if you want more ideas on this topic.
I guess I can start off with our process. I think this probably varies a lot chapter to chapter. So this is what we usually do. So we'll send out our eligibility letters and then have a mandatory just info session so people can learn more about Tau Beta Pi, learn about the history, learn about what their I guess cycle is going to entail. So we actually do a point system. So initiate needs to gain 15 points from their professional, social, or the community service. And it's like a specific number of points from each one. We have a mandatory resume critique alongside that. So they just need to collect 1 point per hour corresponding to events we host throughout this cycle, which is about a quarter and a half for us. So I think like around a 3-month period.
It varies, especially with these past couple semesters, but that's typically what we do as well. Just info session, kind of gather interest, and then we do some sort of activity to try to keep the people who are interested engaged, whether it's getting to know other Tau Beta Pi members currently or doing some kind of activity that we host, like a game night, just to kind of get to know everybody.
Oh yeah, I really like the idea of a game night or a kind of get to know you activity before initiation. We didn't actually do that, but we just did send out the eligibility letters and then had I believe one-on-one interviews between the eligible students and and someone generally from the current leadership, and also had small group info sessions. And now that we have actually installed a large vent at school, we also ask eligible students to polish the vent and send us or back when things were in person, polish the vent and send us a selfie of them doing so. So
we got our eligibility list, send them out by like recognizing in front of the class. And then we had our current members interview one-on-one with the candidates, because that's one of the things we have to assess, right? Their character. We also had like info session where the candidates or like the eligible people would come in, and then we'll tell them about the mandatory things that we want done. So there are some requirements in our chapter that they have to like complete service projects. They have to do like different events, bench polishing. So they have to sign up for those. And once that's done, you have to do an election. So that's another thing that you have to do. Like your whole chapter have to like elect the members. You can elect them individually or as a group. So based on the interview and the activities, we can like vote people in, and usually like they all pass, you know, and then the initiation would happen after that.
But definitely providing a service like tutoring, mentoring, or other kind of just educational events that freshmen can go to, or even like, I mean, our chapter, we had like a pie day event, gave out free pie in kind of an engineering area. So even just like low key things like that, that can reach a lot of students, or fundraising events. I know some chapters do kind of a big annual fundraising event, like a 5K, anything like that, that is provides a service or is open to all students is a great way to raise awareness.
I've also heard of chapters that, I feel like most schools have like an engineering recruiting group for us as engineering ambassadors. And I've heard of chapters that like communicate with that group, and during campus tours, they take people past the bench, and that's a good opportunity to just like say, hey, this is the engineering, you know, this belongs to the Engineering Honor Society. So maybe they won't remember it, but maybe they will. I know somebody who that made a really big impression on him, and then he became a president of Tau Pi. So little things like that can help as well.
This is something that our College of Engineering does, which is we organize like a yearly recognition of outstanding, overachieving sophomore and freshman students in engineering. And during that event, like the dean was invited to like, you know, hand out a few like gifts to the students. And then like, I guess Tau Pi kind of partnered up with the College of Engineering, and we were there. The president was there to like recognize the students and like announce our presence. That's a good way. If your school hasn't done that, maybe you could start one to recognize like the students' hardworking effort, you know.
Is do both, and what my current chapter just did is we had an in-person session and a Zoom session. So you have 2 info sessions. People can choose which one they feel most comfortable attending.
If you are looking to have a little bit of a social aspect to the info session, kind of maybe making that a little bit more structured or explicit if for the virtual info session, since it can sometimes be a little hard to connect with people virtually. So even just doing kind of a more of a structured icebreaker, or even if you want to be more casual, kind of an online, one of those online multiplayer games or something like that, that can kind of help everyone get to know each other, even though sometimes virtual can be a little awkward and harder to connect with people.
Advice on connecting with members and eligible initiates remotely. I definitely say like hosting more socials the better with your friends. So just like hosting like little scribble events, like Jackbox games, categories, things like that. One of my personal favorites that is actually an idea I got from ICE from Kavia's chapter is jigsawexplorer.com, which is just like online jigsaw puzzles you can all do together. So it's a great like way to just chat with people and get to know them while like, I guess, doing an activity on the side.
Trying to have each officer attend at least one info session, to where there's at least one officer at each info session, like Monday through Friday, and staying on top of communications to try to just staying on top of people, because it's really easy to lose the ones that are behind a screen rather than being able to see them face to face.
I think that's a great question, because there are definitely, I think even in high school, I started getting emails from these questionable questionable honor societies that basically just wanted me to pay a couple $100 and join an honor society. So I think definitely emphasizing that there is a really high bar academically to join Tau Beta Pi, and it's a really big academic honor to do that. And also the that it is the oldest engineering honor society. This isn't something that was created like 20 years ago on a whim. This has a lot of history. A lot of really famous and accomplished people have been part of Tau Beta Pi, and it really is a prestigious honor to join the organization. So I think just highlighting some of those points can help you differentiate Tau Beta Pi from a frat or maybe one of these pay to enter societies.
My school actually has a very active and thriving Eta Kappa new chapter as well, which is also an engineering honor society, which was pretty fun. So I actually inducted HKN, and their president and VP initiated Tau Beta Pi. So we were all really close friends at that time. So I feel like we kind of gamed up together and said this is our niche. TVP was much more community focused. HKN was much more professional organization or events focused. So we collaborated actually on the career fair and the networking event that I mentioned before. So I think that because we were both able to target more members and kind of work together in that way, we were able to establish ourselves from those pay to enter societies. We also hosted basically an info session for all honor societies at UCSD. So we invited Phi Beta Kappa. I think there was a psychology honor society as well, just at the very beginning of the year to answer any questions about what is an honor society? Are they really legit, to hopefully get more people involved on a broader scale?
We charged $75 back when I was a member, but I'm not sure about now. But what we did was when we send out the eligibility letter, we have a question at the bottom, whether they're interested and whether they're not interested and why are they not interested. And if they indicate that financial reason was the reason why they're not interested, then we will maybe send a member or have our advisor chat with them and see if we can come up with a payment plan for them or loan them some money. We'll also stress that it's a one-time payment and you're a member forever, so it's a good deal, I think.
Have basically a house competition. So we have red house, blue house, and green house for RGB values. And basically if you're in a certain house, that house will gain all of the points that you tally up from attending events. And the winning house gets a $15 discount. So they'll only have to pay $95. And we also have basically competitions where initiates can get their fees completely waived. So if they design our initiation t-shirt, if they win our one of our competitions and things like that. So there are definitely opportunities, if they get the most points, they'll have their fees waived as well. And if they really demonstrate they don't have the funds, we can sponsor them as well. But I don't think that's come up at all in the last few years. So yeah, I definitely say if you can find some kind of way to make it fun or make them more competitive towards reducing that fee as well, that might be a good option. And also really encouraging them to apply for the $2,000 scholarship as well.
I think when I initiated into my chapter, the fee was $110, either that or $100. While I was president, we reduced it to $75 because we'd had pretty successful fundraising. My current chapter is at $100. I do know of one chapter that got their dean to fully pay everyone's fees, and they saw a remarkable increase in membership because it was free for people to join. So if you have that kind of relationship with your dean, or if your dean is a Tau Beta Pi member, maybe not the full fee, but maybe they would be willing to sponsor some of that. So yeah, that's just an idea. I don't think a lot of colleges can do that, but maybe some of them can.
So UCSD's chapter is really huge. Last year we initiated 99 people, and I think eligibility is 600 to 700, I want to say. So I definitely say if you can get a large board, I think most of your problems are solved right there, because the more events that you can put out and the more people you can really get engaged, that also definitely increases the image that you have around campus if you have more people able to like create flyers for events and able to organize more things that are open to the public. So I definitely say if you can increase your image, I feel like going back to that little ice chart, I feel like image can help membership a whole lot, even if it is like really, really massive groups. I'd also say that for our initiation process, along with the house system, we have a family system. So each like pod of I think like 5 initiates is paired up with 1 to 2 current members or officers. So that also kind of helps have a personal touch, even though we're so huge.
We have anywhere from 250 to 300 people eligible every semester. And so we have a similar problem, but we put up posters and they're all around campus. We tell people stare at the posters. If your name's on a poster, you should probably go look and see what it says. And so that's one way we get people to look at invites and whatnot. Another thing that we do is we go to freshman, sophomore, and transfer orientations as part of our recruitment. And so freshman and sophomore is like just getting them an idea of like this exists, strive to do well in school. And then when you're a junior or senior, you'll get a letter, so don't throw it away. And then the transfer orientations are more immediate. So these are people, because we're a commuter school, so these are people who, when they come, they're most likely junior or senior standing. And so this gives us an opportunity to be like, you should join right now. And so that lets us recruit to them, and we don't have to send necessarily an email or anything. We could actually get to go talk to them and they can ask us questions after the fact. Some take-home messages, and we've gone through most of these for the most part. So build your chapter's on-campus image leading up to the eligibility letter. All that really makes a difference if you can lead something and then go through with the eligibility letter and add lots of cool image boosters towards the end. We have a couple of advice and options for you in a later slide, but that's a great way to get new people. Put a lot of effort into the letter that you send and other recruiting efforts that you do. Remember, for the letter especially, that you might be actually stuffing and sending out 40, 50 of these, maybe more, but the person who gets it on the receiving end, that's the only one they get. So you want to make it good and make sure that they feel valued and that they have a reason to come to Taubata Pi and feel welcome there. And they're not looking at something that's sloppy. Also, make sure you wow your prospective members with your initiation process. You want, and I think Donald mentioned this particularly, you want the process to be meaningful so they feel like it's not just a pay and join society. You want it to feel like they're going to get something out of it and make them feel like they're welcome. And some of the best image boosting activities are very cost effective and targeted. So it doesn't have to be a $100, $200 banquet. It can be something that's on the more cost effective side, but it's also a great image booster. So keep that in mind, just get creative. And in all of your efforts for recruitment and image boosting, consider the image of TBP that you want to portray to your members. Make sure if your main goal is to be professional and showcase how professional you are, put that at the forefront and do activities relating to that to showcase how great you do that particular thing. So that's one way to get lots of people to be interested, because they'll find that they align with those values. So pick the values you want to particularly showcase.